Let's talk about some ways we can entitle our kids.
It feels like you're loving them, but when you don't set boundaries and you're trying to be their friend instead of their parent, you're doing the absolute opposite.
And sometimes they have to hear the word no. No is okay to say.
Bribing can be really detrimental. If we are exhibiting entitlement behavior, our kids are going to follow that for sure.
We have to be modeling attitudes and actions and everything. They're looking at us.
If you have a child that's entitled, what are some signs that they may be entitled?
Not wanting to offer to help. They can't handle disappointment.
You can see an entitled kid is really self-focused.
If you have a focus on serving others, it's going to lessen the chance of entitlement creeping in.
It's the we get to, not we have to attitude.
Building resiliency, finishing what you start.
If they gave their word, let their yes be yes and their no be no.
I think it started with an attitude of gratitude for what we already have.
The whole responsibility thing is just really, really big. Teaching our kids to be responsible for the sake of others as well.
Entitlement can take root if we equate what we own and they become our identity or a comfort to us. Well, it is great to be back with everyone.
It is. Rich and Julie Young here on the Life Parenting Podcast. And we're excited to have some guests here. But
before the guests.
Yes. What are we talking about?
Well, do you remember when you were a kid playing on sports teams? What was the prize?
Well, if we won, we probably got a trophy or something like that.
And if you got second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth?
We got to go home and try again next year.
It's basically what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. First place got something. The others didn't get anything, did they? So we've got an interesting topic, an exciting topic to talk about, but it's going to be fun going through. We're going to talk about entitlement today.
Entitlement, yeah.
Entitlement, yeah. How really ways that we can entitle our kids.
Unintentionally, usually.
Most times, yeah. Signs that they're entitled. How do you identify it? And then most importantly, we're going to camp on ways to combat entitlement.
Yeah, really important.
Yeah. So what we want to do is help you identify it, but also move past it and make progress, incremental progress.
Yeah.
Towards getting past it.
Yeah. And maybe just an awareness. It creeps in. We don't even realize that we're entitling our kids sometimes.
Creep is a real thing.
Creep is tough, yeah.
Yep. We're not going to talk about all areas things creep in life, but we're going to talk about entitlement.
Yeah.
So
but first, let's introduce our friends.
We've got some friends with us today. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
So do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Go for it.
I was going to have you do it, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know why did I even ask? So it's one of those,
like a parenting principle? You shouldn't ask your kids a question that
I
you
feel
already
like,
know what you want them to do.
Yeah, I feel like I've done that before in our marriage at some point. I've kind of asked and I'm like, I don't want to do
it's
that.
Kind of like you're hoping they're going to answer the way I want them to.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd transition.
You had a 50-50 chance.
I had a 50-50 chance and I did not score well on that one.
It's okay. I would
How about we both do it?
Okay.
How about we both do it?
Every
you
other
start.
word?
Every other word? No.
Really hard.
No. You go odds, I'll go evens. Is that even a thing?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we're very happy. You're wondering what you got yourself into.
I know. Our friends just left the room. For those of you that aren't on YouTube,
we did have guests.
Yeah, we did have guests, and our guests have just left the room. They're gone, and it's just you and I, Julie.
Okay.
So, oh my goodness.
Thankfully, they're our good friends. They wouldn't do that to us. We are honored and privileged to welcome Kurt and Jill Everson, who I think
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking this afternoon. I think we first met you guys in like 2002 at a parenting conference, a GFI conference in Tampa, Florida. So we've known you guys for a long, long time. I just remember there being an instant connection with you guys, with the four of us, which is really a unique thing when couples have this instant connection.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the wives connect or the husbands connect, but it's not always the couples. And I was thinking, what was it? Why were we so attracted to Kurt and Jill? And several reasons. One, you guys are fun. You are funny. And we just love that. We always love having fun. I think it's kind of obvious on this podcast. So it's fun to find people who do that. You love the Lord. I should have put that first because that was like a first draw. That, and then too, you also, we were obviously at this parenting conference, Growing Families Parenting Conference together. You guys had the same values in raising your kids. And that was really exciting.
We have kids too.
They had kids.
We have kids.
And I am always seeking out, and I know you are too, people who are just a bit ahead of us. And your oldest child is 5 years older than our oldest. So I felt like I had an instant mentor and friend in Jill. And we also bonded over a book.
We did.
You want to tell them what that book was?
Well, why don't they introduce themselves first?
Okay.
So let them introduce
story.
themselves, introduce the family,
Okay.
and then Jill can talk about the book. Yeah, let's do that
Awesome.
first.
Hey, I'm Kurt,
And I'm Jill.
and we're glad to be your friends. Wow. You guys are awesome. Jill and I have been married for 35 years, and we've got 4 children. Our oldest is 31, and we've got 29, 27, and 24. So we're a little ahead of you,
Yeah.
but not by much. Not by much.
That's the toughest part of the podcast is getting all the
Yeah,
ages
getting
right.
ages
I mean,
right.
really, that'll loosen you up right
yeah,
there.
right there.
Yeah.
I'm all of a sudden I'm like, whew, I made it through.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
on their birth dates?
Actually,
I
social
probably
security
could.
numbers. Give me the last
No.
4 of their social.
Oh,
Blood-
boy.
starting
here
with
we
the
go
oldest,
with
blood
social-
type.
Blood type. That's
No.
right.
But yeah, we got involved in going to, I think 2000 was our first conference, and then 2002, and met you guys there in 2002, and it's just been
And then for a long
pretty
stretch,
amazing.
we did those family camps every
We
year.
did family camps.
I mean, for over a decade, every year.
and we would see you guys there every year, and our families got to be friends. We got to be friends. Our families got to know each other. And go ahead.
And some
Yeah.
people may not know you as Kurt. They may know you as
Cletus.
yes.
Wow.
So is any of that on YouTube?
No.
Can people?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
I hope not.
So, little background, at this family camp, there was a family skit night, and Cletus
Classic.
was,
You brought Cletus in one year.
you're going to blame us.
Yes, you wrote him into the script, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
That
Cletus
was so
was
fun.
a fun-loving hillbilly, I guess.
No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say
Southern
that.
guy.
He's just a
Southern.
fun-loving guy.
Hillbilly.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to break out into
Yeah.
it, maybe. I don't know. Jill, save us. Julie mentioned that book. What was that you bonded over? That book.
We were just looking through the bookstore, and Julie was holding up this book called Martha to the Max.
Yeah.
And she's just looking at it like, wow, this looks like a really good book. Like,
sounds like
I
me.
like literally just read this on the plane on the way to the conference. You can just have my book. And that was like our first time, I think, that we like really talked quite a lot. And then I remember I think that same conference, just in the parking lot or something, the 4 of us just start laughing because Kurt started doing this Southern guy. And we thought we were going to offend you because you're from the South and we're from the Midwest. But you actually laughed.
Yeah. Yeah, you
we
grew
actually,
up in the
we
Midwest.
actually laughed, but
But you grew up in the Midwest and then moved south.
you
so-
thought this was going to be a discussion on entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really going to talk about that parking lot discussion. We've got some issues that we need to work through.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, we've had a lot of fun
Yeah,
together.
We have.
And just
Yeah.
really admire your parenting journey and the wisdom that you guys have and just the fruit of your children. And now
Consistency.
4 grandchildren,
Mhm.
which is really beautiful.
It's
and really neat.
amazing. Yeah.
So really treasure your wisdom. The audience is really going to be blessed by you guys.
Thank
so
you.
let's dig into
Yeah,
it.
looking forward to it. So let's talk about what entitlement is, what being entitled is. And we'll just define that as believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. When you think of that, Julie, what are some things that come to mind if you had to list a few things under that word entitlement?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much that comes to mind. But one thing is expecting instant gratification, which in
Yeah.
our culture has just sped up. I mean, when we were kids, the microwave had just come out. So, like now, can you imagine a generation growing up without the fast food, the microwave, just everything that we can get instant, the knowledge, the smartphones, what we can get instantly.
Well, I was just in a meeting today talking to my team, and we were just talking about how you obtain information today. And of course, you've got computers and the phone. Back when you had to go to the library encyclopedias. You had to do multiple cross references, and now you just type in and you got AI that pops out an answer. I just did that a few minutes ago, and popped out an answer on something instantly.
Yeah. I even think of the weather. It used to be you'd have to turn on the local news and wait for the weather, or
Local on the 8s.
when the Weather Channel came out and you could get it every 10 minutes, local on the 8th, that was a big deal. And now we're like, I'd have to wait 10 minutes? That's ridiculous.
No, I have an app now.
Exactly.
I can look it up right now.
I can tell you the radar and when it's going to start raining.
That's right.
So our culture has sped to really feed that instant gratification.
And another thing I think of with that is believing you have a right to something.
Yeah.
Believing you have a right to something.
Definitely. And then discomfort with frustration. And frustration is never fun. Of course, it's going to be uncomfortable, but there's a certain level of frustration that we need to be okay with and tolerate. And we can dig in more to that later.
And I think too, if you're entitled, you just really have a hard time with people holding you accountable.
Yeah.
That's going to be an issue. I mean, if you're feeling like being held accountable is a thing, that you may be bending towards more of an entitlement mindset.
Yeah.
So what's the first generation that that kind of leaned into this?
The entitled. So we're considered Gen X, right? Is that what we are? I was
Is that the generation that really started it or not?
No, it's
okay,
not.
So we're Gen X then.
We're Gen X. So thankfully it's not us.
I was just checking. Yeah.
The millennials. Or I think that they're also called Gen Y, and it almost seems like there's fuzzy lines, but it's approximately if you were born from 1981 to 1996, which I realize could be a huge fraction of this audience that's listening, but they're considered the first entitled generation, also often called the trophy generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And what does that mean? Kurt, when you hear the trophy generation, what would that mean to you?
If you expected a trophy just for participating, even if you don't win first or second place, I'm going to get a trophy because I participated.
You were on the team.
Right.
You were a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our kids are on a summer swim team, and if they do really well in the championship meet, if their team wins the championship meet, they get a pretty good sized trophy. But every single kid on that swim team comes home with a medal, and it's a pretty good size medal. But if they win, like if they come in first in freestyle of all the kids in their age group, like
in the whole meet,
in a really big deal, I think they get a really small medal, something like this. It might have even been a ribbon for a few years, and then it became a medal. But it's so interesting as our adult children have been cleaning out the room, and they're finding these stacks of participation medals, and then just a few of these little medals if they did really well. And they're like, I don't even want these. So all the participation trophies, medals, hit the trash. But the ones that they earned, they kept.
That's right.
That
That's
meant
exactly.
something. Which tells you something.
Well, absolutely.
a lot.
Yeah, it does say a lot.
It does.
So let's talk about some ways that we can entitle our kids, and ways that you, as you're listening, may have entitled your kids. Jill, when you hear that, what are some ways you've seen people entitle their kids? And it's not you and Kurt, it's like your neighbors and people in your class and stuff like that. I'm not saying you as parents, because I don't believe you've ever done that. So we're just going to talk about ways you've seen that.
Well, I think a lot of it can easily happen when you want to be a friend, especially to your littles who really, really need a parent, but you want to be nice to them. You want them to like you. So you don't really set a whole lot of boundaries, because if you set a boundary, they're going to get upset.
That's right.
So we want to keep everybody happy and everybody, loving each other. Well, that's what it feels like. You're loving them. But when you don't set boundaries and you're trying to be their friend instead of their parent, you're doing the absolute opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Kurt, how about you? What's one way that you've seen?
I guess I think of not wanting to say no, right along with what Jill was saying, not wanting to say no, wanting to be their friend, but being able to think that saying yes to everything they ask for is the best way. But sometimes we don't get what we want, or it's not right to get what you want.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have to hear the word no. No is okay to say. And as parents, we have a hard time saying no at times, but you have to, because you can't say yes to everything. Yeah, we've had to say no. And because you learn to say no, it's okay. And I think our children became a little bit more responsible because they learned to deal with, I don't get my way all the time. That's okay.
So as a parent, do you think you said yes more than no? Or you've said no more than yes? Where's the count, do you think?
Boy, that's a hard question.
I know. But what's
Wait,
the feel on
I
that?
don't know about the count, but I tried really hard to say yes every time I could because most of the time I wanted to say no.
We've had that conversation before where we said, well, how can we say yes and not always say no all the time?
Because
And
you feel
we had
like
to
you're
think-
saying no a lot.
Yeah,
We
you do,
do.
Yeah.
especially when they're younger. And you want to be able to say yes because they need to hear both yes and no. But you have to be careful with what you're saying yes to. I mean, we can't just say, oh, sure, go ahead, you can, and allow them to do something that later you're thinking, oh, why did I say that? Well, maybe we should have talked about that because sometimes yes is okay, but sometimes no is the right answer.
Yeah.
And that's all the way through, not just when they're young. That's all the way through.
Yeah, and I had a really recent example of that. Our 12-year-old is really into cooking and wants to learn all about cooking.
Which is awesome.
It is the biggest blessing after 7 kids. I'm like, yes, thank you, Lord.
Well, some of our other kids were
Yes,
into
yes,
cooking too.
yes,
It
they
wasn't
were.
just him.
Or-
Yeah.
No one's been into it like him. But he had heard about, I think a friend was telling him about this YouTuber who teaches how to cook. And it's kind of geared a little bit towards kids and beginners. And he told me, he's like, Mom, I heard about this. Can I watch it? And my first is, no, you can't just watch anyone on YouTube. I don't know what kind of language he uses. And I thought, you know what? I have the time. Let me preview it. And then if I'm feeling like it's okay, I'll watch the first episode with you. So I was able to say yes. It was a short episode. It turns out to be a wonderful find that he is learning all sorts of things. And I'm like, will you teach me? You know, these things that you learn. The proper way to cut a chicken, I just hack it up. There's probably a proper way. He's like, oh, I learned, Mom. I can totally do it. And he did. But I think that's one example where I was, YouTube, no, that's not safe. And I did say yes. And I was blessed with some amazing fried chicken.
That was amazing.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good. You're just a few weeks too late in
Sorry.
showing up for this podcast because you could have had some really good fried chicken. I'm just saying.
We might stick around a few more days.
I have to talk to him and see if he'll do some. What about a couple ways you've seen entitlement
another
out
one
there?
would be giving kids equal say in decisions and just allowing them too many choices too early.
That's rough.
And then they become entitled to think that I get a say
Yes.
in what the family dynamics are and where we're going for dinner, what we're eating for dinner, or just so many things. And it comes back to that funnel. In a lot of the Growing Families curriculums, we talk about the funnel and too many choices and keeping a child in the funnel. So we'll link something in the show notes more about that.
Right.
And a couple more that can really be detrimental. Bribing can be really detrimental to leading to entitlement. Excessive praise, where you're just constantly putting praise on them. And then probably the one that I won't say is the most dangerous because they're all have their level of danger, but as adults, as parents, we model it. We actually are entitled. And that's probably the toughest one to admit to. But if we are actually exhibiting entitlement behavior, our kids are going to follow that
You're
for
right.
sure. For sure.
And that's one where we really have to do some inward reflection, seek the Lord, and just ask Him, Lord, show me where I'm showing an entitled attitude, where I expect. And it's often in our relationship in the Lord and our prayer life will reflect that. We're entitled to certain things that we think God should be giving us. And there's a lot to unpack there with someone, but that's something we all need to self-examine because so often the attitudes we see in our kids, not always, but often they can come from them watching us going,
Right.
oh, that's how you're supposed to act, which is the hardest ones because they're like little mirrors on us.
Whether it's entitlement or anything, we have to be modeling attitudes and actions and everything. They're looking at us, always looking at us. So,
Yeah, it's not do as I say, not as I do,
yeah.
right? Because if you're doing that, it's not going to work. They're going to do as you do.
They're going to see right. Yeah,
They're going to see right
through
past
it.
that. That's right. That's right.
And they'll be able to call out the hypocrisy really
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's park for a few minutes on some signs if you have a child that's entitled, what are some signs that they may be entitled? So, Jill, what do you think there? What are some things that you've seen or you see in entitled kids?
Well, they often expect to have a reward or some sort of huge praise for everything good they do. Yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Like they won't be good in the store unless they get a little candy at the checkout.
Oh, yeah. So is that why they have the candy at the checkout?
Pretty
they know
sure
they know what they're doing.
And it's been there ever since I was a kid. So
Totally.
who knows? It's probably been there forever.
I know.
Ever since the store opened.
Yeah. Brought to you by the American Dental Association.
Exactly.
So, or something
It
like
works
that.
too.
It totally works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kurt, how about you? What's one or two that you see?
I think just not wanting to help, not wanting to offer to help, whether it's doing things around the house. The other, I think, is they can't handle disappointment. They've not learned how to. I mean, they've not learned how to. When mom and dad say no or something doesn't go their way, they can't handle it. And obviously we have to teach that. We have to teach that and train them to be able to handle that, because it comes down to, I think we've talked about this before. It comes down to life's not fair.
Right.
Sometimes things don't go. It's not, Rich. I know.
Oh, I'm learning something here.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the favorite things that we said.
We did.
When someone would start to lose some self-control because things didn't go the way they thought they should. Well, life's not fair. And it just isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
It really isn't.
It's not.
Yeah.
Things
I
are
tried
not always going to go our way.
When that happened a couple of times, I tried to get over it. Didn't quite work as well as I thought it would. I was like, just get over it. And it kind of exasperated the situation.
Yeah.
So I wish you were around to help me, because that didn't work. That did not work at all. That was bad. What about you, Julie? What are a couple that you see?
You can see an entitled kid is really self-focused. So they're focused on themselves. They just have no others awareness. And God's word is just so filled. Jesus' example is others. And so as much as we can be teaching our children others, and when we see them so self-absorbed, focused, they're not wanting to help others, passing blame off onto other people, something happened and it's, well, he did it, and not just, taking ownership.
You got a child that's passing blame and that doesn't get corrected. When they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, they're not going to take any responsibility at work or anything. They're going to constantly be looking for other reasons why.
You're right.
And I don't know. I've seen that. I've seen that in some 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds where they absolutely take no responsibility. And I believe that they probably had somewhat of an entitled life as they were raised.
Right.
So, lack of accountability, maybe.
Yeah. I even think of, kids in school that the teacher they feel is unfair, and they go home and tell mom and dad go and, get on the teacher, rather than talking to the kid and saying, look, you messed up, own it. I'm not going to get mad at your teacher because you.
Oh dear, I used to coach volleyball.
Oh.
Ooh, as a coach, you really see this big time because, you didn't really earn that spot on the team. So we're not giving you the spot on the team. Well, I haven't had a chance to have that spot on the team where you didn't earn the chance to get on the team. I mean,
wow.
Ooh, and the parents get real upset with the coach. And as us as coaches, like, what are we supposed to do? It's hard.
Thankfully, they're getting paid really well, so you could overcome
Thankfully,
that.
we were just
Right.
volunteering.
Yeah.
I kind of felt
Kind of
that.
makes you wonder if it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it because you were able to speak into some of that in a life-giving way, I'm sure, which maybe it wasn't received well, but hopefully it helped them change their mind on how they were pursuing parenting, how they were pursuing reacting to things. I mean, there's a lot of benefits that come out of that. I think you just probably were a seed planter. You may not have seen the fruit of that. So that's hard.
Yeah.
How about people that expect to get rescued from their mistakes all the time?
Yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah. And I think I talked about the kids at school who maybe did badly on a test and want mom and dad to come in to rescue them. But yeah, definitely just no ownership.
Rules apply to them, not me. That could be one. Yeah. So there's a lot of issues there that when you're looking at your child, you need to be self-assessing, are they exhibiting some of these behaviors? And if they are, you probably have entitlement creep coming in.
Yeah.
So,
and it's so easy to happen. I mean,
It
I
is.
think you and I have had a high entitlement alert, like sensor, because it just bothers us so much to see entitlement in, neighborhood kids or just kids out there. And then when we see little entitlement attitudes popping up in our kids, we're like, we're on it right away.
what was that? Do that again? That was really good.
But as hard as we have worked to not raise entitled kids, we still, and it was just within the last few months that some things were starting to pop up in some of our kids. We're like, ooh. And so, we had some conversations with them, and we're going to talk about ways to combat entitlement. But even as diligent as you can be, it still sometimes creeps in. It comes from, as humans, us having to work really hard to take the focus off ourselves and think of others.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to talk about now. It's good transition.
I meant it.
You're so good. You are so good. We're actually going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the first one, serving others. Because I think if you have a focus on serving others, it's going to lessen the chance of entitlement creeping in. Mm-hmm. So Kurt and Jill, what are some things that you intentionally did as parents, as a family, as you were raising your kids to serve others, to make that a rhythm in your family? Were there a couple of things you did that you can think of that really yielded some fruit?
Yeah, I mean, the first one I think of was we used to sing together on our worship team at church.
When you say together, what do you mean?
We
as
were
a family?
on the same team. Oh, Kurt and I were on the same
Okay.
worship team at church.
Okay, got it.
And so our kids were hanging around the whole practice in the morning, Sunday mornings. Basically, they could have just sat around doing nothing, sitting in the nursery or whatever, playing with toys. They didn't need to be. I'm talking because of their age. But they ended up moving into things that they could do and serve. While we were serving, they started making coffee for the church. This is Truck and older in their high school years, obviously.
Okay, so they
And
weren't
then
doing doing that at 3.
Not at
Making
3,
coffee.
no. I mean, we
Okay.
started at 4,
Okay,
getting them
4.
ready
That's fair.
with the boiling water.
No, we talked about this before. It was the cold water.
Cold water.
You waited till they were
Cold water
5
that-
with the hot water.
Yes,
that's right. Come on.
Yes, we did
Just-
talk about that.
Yes, we
So
did.
the
Okay.
older ones could be making coffee. The younger ones could be watching some of the other kids of the parents on the worship team,
Right.
that sort of thing. But there was something they were doing to serve while we were
Right.
serving. It didn't take any extra time because they were already there. So for us to think of ways like that,
When-
it didn't necessarily take a huge amount of time, but it was little things that they were capable of doing, but they were doing freely for other people.
I think one of your kids now mixes sound.
Mm-hmm.
Did it come from
Hanging
that
around.
child hanging around that
Absolutely
environment?
was.
Hanging around the soundboard,
soundboard?
and,
He
and
pr-
realizing that
he was up
he was
there.
gifted with that,
Yeah.
and people said, "Hey, why don't you come and help out?" And he did, and
That's
did
cool.
did very well with it.
And you
And
know
he-
what I love too is I've seen the attitude within your family. And while I wasn't there, I know it wasn't, we're going to sing and worship, so you guys have to do this. I'm sure that it was this, hey, you get to do this. And what an
Yeah.
honor. And we're serving the Lord. And look at
That's
these
right.
people that we're helping. And I think that's so important because that's exciting.
Mhm.
We all want to be able to help and serve. And,
Right.
we tell our kids, we're going to go out and serve God and serve the Lord. And to a child that can seem overwhelming, you're like, no, make a pot of coffee. Really? Yeah, make a pot of coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
Serving others.
Yeah.
I think we should take a pause, and Kurt and I should sing something together for the podcast. What do you think?
No.
What would she sing, Jill? What should we sing?
No.
No?
No.
No, you're not thinking that's a great idea? Okay. How about,
Kurt could sing. Kurt and Jill could sing. That would bless everyone. You and I chiming in would
you
not
don't think
bless
that Kurt
anyone.
and I could do something?
I'm sure you could. Would it bless others, though? That's what would that serve others?
Well, you may have to wait till the end of the podcast. There may be a clip there that you all can listen
Oh,
to.
my goodness.
And I would say that was a pretty good clip.
Okay, you'll have to stick around.
Stick around. Yeah, stay till the end. Don't turn it off at the end. Kurt, can you think of one that your family did that you served
Yeah,
as a group?
a lot of it was just serving within our own family, helping out with whether it's working in the yard or doing things together, which we can talk more about. But yeah, I think that was where it started. It needed to start at home, and then we could
That's good.
take it out outside of our walls and our yard and helping others, whether it's a neighbor or whether it's somebody else that we know that needs help, whether it's, mulch or whether it's just working in their yard, mowing the lawn, whatever it might be.
Why is it harder to serve those that are closest to us? Isn't that the hardest person to serve? Why is that so hard?
You don't get the satisfaction.
Yeah. I think that.
I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think those who are farther away from us, we don't know all their blemishes.
Right.
And so we see all their shiny.
Right.
And it's like they deserve it. And those up close to us, we're like, you don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty messed up.
Well, it's
They got
almost like
issues.
we could impress other people, but we can't impress our family because
So
they
true.
know us exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And then it
that's so
comes
true.
down to who are we doing this for our glory or the Lord's glory?
Right. What's one thing you think about with our family that did consistently for a while that in serving that was really beneficial?
Oh, we used to go downtown. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
I was thinking of a lot of things. You could pick one. I mean,
Well, our city had a homeless shelter, a family shelter that we could go into, and we'd bring dinner once a month and then go and sit with the residents and talk with them and pray with them. And our kids still talk about that. That was really meaningful.
yeah, learning their story
Yeah.
of how they got to where they're
But
at.
these are real people.
Yeah.
Let's love them and learn their story.
Yeah.
That's good. I thought of the, working out in the yard, serving neighbors. It's the we get to, not we have to attitude. And so often I think we tell our kids, we have to go shovel snow for, whoever they broke their foot and they can't do it. Instead
Right.
of, hey, we get to go serve them.
Right.
And just that little tweak. I remember
Of how we
So I
approach
should
it, how
probably
we approach
use,
it.
we get to go dig a ditch today.
Exactly.
Right.
God, I've been missing that.
Right.
That was a key pickup today. I am going to do so well with our younger kids now that are still at home. Man, they're going to be blessed by this.
I think you have tried that. I think they're on to you.
Yeah, I know
But
they are.
our pastor says when he was young, he dreaded going to church. They were the Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. They used to say, "Oh, Mom, do we have to go to church?" And every time their mom said, "No, we get to. It's a privilege."
You're right.
And so I think just having that attitude with our kids and us serving joyfully will be contagious to them.
Let's talk about another way to combat entitlement, offering hospitality. What are some ways that you guys observed that or actually participated in that we can help some of the folks listening today?
Boy, the very first thing that comes to my mind is when we used to do the growing families classes at home in our house. They would clean always. If the class was on Monday, we cleaned on Mondays. The house was clean and everybody did it together. Usually we had a snack of some sort, some drinks that had to be out, cups, just things to do. And they loved going to the door and greeting everyone and even just taking care of each other, like the older ones making sure the younger ones were in bed or whatever. That whole night was us with this heart of serving
those
these
families.
couples,
Yep.
these families who were at our house that we were discipling and that we were part of community with. And that was beautiful. That was from the time they were little, because our youngest one was literally an infant when we started teaching.
Nice. So how many years have you been leading growing families classes?
24 years.
No, let me just tell you this too. Kurt really wanted to start, just give a little context here. He wanted to start leading classes. He felt like we were ready to do that. I did not. He felt that we were. So
And this was after you were married, right?
we were married.
You were married.
We had four
And you
kids.
had kids.
They have four
Okay.
kids.
We had 4 kids.
Well, you were
We-
pregnant for the fourth.
Yeah.
Oh.
When we
We
went.
were pregnant
yeah.
for the 4th one when, I was.
Yeah.
when-
We.
No.
Yeah. Okay, we.
Jill,
okay,
it's a we thing.
Okay, we. Yeah, I
It's a
thought he
we.
was taking credit for the pregnant part, but he is. He does have credit. You're right. No, I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
Just go on.
So, anyway, we're at a conference and he said, "I think we need to lead these classes." And I'm like, "We do not. We're not ready for this. How can we teach someone
That's
else? We've never even been in a class ourselves. Like, we can't be teaching other people."
Right.
He's like, "I think we can. Look at the fruit in our kids. Like,
Right.
this is really working."
And I
And
said
s-
we can't keep this to ourselves.
Yeah, it's too good.
Right.
We can't keep this to
So
ourselves.
true. So good.
So the perfect time to start was the beginning of the year. Our baby was born in October, and we start when she's, 3 months old.
Well, I talked about starting in the fall. but she was due in October, and that didn't go over
No,
well.
that was there. Maybe a little
So we
compromise
started in
there.
January.
I mean,
so they,
quite frankly, you leave the hospital after a couple of days. You can,
don't-
if you time
yeah,
it in the
stop
middle
right
of the
there.
week's
Here we
class,
go.
right?
Stop right there.
Better go.
Okay.
We
Should I
better
stop?
let her finish.
But
Yeah.
the reality is, like that first night, the very first class we did, I was like literally in the bathroom crying. We can't do this. What are we thinking? We can't do this. We can't do this. And it honestly, I mean, I came out, he settled me down, the people came, and everything went great. And honestly, we've been doing this for 24 years now. We have a passion for it. It all began with me like not needing to be perfect to start it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I thought, I mean, man, we have so far to go. We really don't know what we're doing here yet. Maybe when we get it together, then we can start.
Which is when?
Never.
Yes.
Yeah, still working on it.
So we keep telling our classes now, we're still learning. We're grandparents and we're still learning from this.
They probably look at us and say, why are you still teaching a class? Other than having a passion to help others, we still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
You who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus.
Amen.
Always reminded of that.
Amen.
Do you get the comment ever like you're too young to be grandparents?
Yes.
Yeah. That feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does feel good.
That's awesome. Well, you are. You guys look young.
Yeah.
So,
Same with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very young.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's
Forever
talk about
young.
They are young.
That's right. That's right. Forever young. So building resiliency. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That's finishing what you start. So let's talk a little bit about how we integrated that into our families.
Yeah.
What are some things we did?
I think teaching our kids the value of a commitment. If they say they're going to be somewhere, participate in something, sign up for a class, if they gave their word, let their yes be yes and their no be no. And I realize it's getting harder and harder and harder. And I know there's a complaint our children have often said. Everyone says our generation can't commit. And obviously that's a really broad stereotype and generalization.
Yeah, that's right.
There's certainly some that can and some that can't. We've worked hard to teach our kids to do that. But I also realized, I was thinking the why. Why is it so hard for this generation now to commit or to, that stereotype that's out there? And I got to thinking, when we were their age, there was no phones, there was no social media. There was, like, if you heard about an event going on, that's probably the only event happening that night anywhere. And it was easy. Do I go or do I don't go? Sure, I'll go.
You
And
didn't
there
have
were
no
no
other
other
choices. Right.
Now, through the phones, it's amazing what we have available to us, but it's got to be overwhelming to our young children. I mean, I'm talking teens. When I say young children here, teens and even 20
It's all of our
somethings.
children.
Yeah.
When you say young children. Yes.
Yeah. But it's overwhelming because they have so many choices. They're getting invited to a lot of different things. Social media is presenting these things.
Right.
The church app is presenting all these options. So it's hard for them to go, I don't know. There might be something else. Let me go check my email. Let me go check that.
So how do you help the kids through that?
I understand the overwhelming. So it's helping them sift through it and talking about priorities.
Correct.
And you have a lot of different options. So let's talk about the options on the table. What is your priority? What is important to you? What do you feel like you could commit to? Like if you say yes to that, that looks like a 3-week commitment. Can you commit to all 3 weeks?
So helping them think through what outcomes might look like if they say yes. Before they say yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really critical.
And how much time it's really going to take to complete everything and what you decide to sign up for, because we can get overwhelmed and sign up for way too many things. And then we're like, how are we going to get through this all?
Yeah. Or, something looks really fun. One of our kids, I really, really want to play cello. His older brother did. And he was so excited to learn cello. And so we talked, are you sure? Do you really want to do this? And so, yes. And so we did it for like a year and it was really fun. And then it got hard. Mm-hmm. And it was, no, you know what? We want you to finish out the year, maybe to even do a whole nother year. Like we bought you a cello. I know we could sell it, but let's, and just teaching him that commitment, that persevering, pushing through some hard to get to the fruit. He was frustrated. He wasn't as good as his older brother within 6 months. Well, his older brother had been playing for like 8 years. So just teaching them that resiliency, that perseverance, the endurance that it takes.
Yeah, that's really good. In life, we as adults, kids, there's going to be wants and needs. How do we help them understand the difference between a want and a need? Walk through some of the ways that we've done that. And I'd like to hear Kurt and Jill too.
I think as soon as our kids say, I need blah, 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 whatever comes out of their mouth, and you've been really good at this, is saying, is that a want or a need? And them really examining, oh, I guess it's just a want. And so we kind of boil down, what really are your needs? And really asking them, what are your needs and what is just a want?
I think that's maybe one way to examine where your heart is around entitlement. If you really have a massive list of needs, you might be bending towards entitlement, because really our need list is usually should be pretty small, and our want list should be pretty tall.
Yeah.
And if it gets flipped and our need list is massive, usually we've moved a bunch of those needs into the want category. And that's
you become high maintenance.
Yeah, we've just become like...
Nobody really enjoys a high maintenance person because no one can make them happy.
What are some ways that you guys talked about that with your kids?
I think it started with an attitude of gratitude for what we already have,
which we're going to talk about next. That was a great lead in.
No, but they're tied together.
They are,
because we had to be willing to be grateful for what we already had. And be willing to thank the Lord for what He had already given us. And then looking at wants and needs and deciding. And we have to do that as adults. It's not like this is the only time they're going to have to look at wants and needs when they're younger. It goes on for the rest of your life, right?
Like when you make more money, is it easier or harder? As your income goes up, it gets harder, I think. It gets doesn't
harder,
it?
Right?
Yeah.
Because
I was hoping I probably shouldn't ask the
have to
question that way.
It's all about priorities. I mean, you said that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like what are the priorities? What are your priorities? And lots of times our priorities can be so self-focused.
Right.
We don't even realize it.
Yeah.
We're not looking at the needs of other people. We're just looking at what we want. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need to have a great relationship with your spouse, with some friends, to help maybe allow them into your life, to speak into you if they start seeing you going down that road, because sometimes we can't see it.
Right.
One decision leads to another decision, and boom, pretty soon you're there, and it's like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And you need somebody to pull you aside and say, can we talk?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of humility.
It does.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to have that conversation with our children, or sit down and look at the wants and the needs and the pros and the cons, and helping them work through that, because sometimes it can be very, well, I just need it. Well, let's talk about it. Let's think about it.
Yeah, when someone sits me down and says, can we talk? I usually ask, are you going to talk about me or you? If you're talking about me,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. If we're going to talk about you, sure, let's do that.
Yeah. It's
Your
never
eyes
easy.
can open up your blind spots.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you were going to say something?
Well, I think everything that we're talking about, if you can start all of these things with your kids when they're young, it's going to be so easy. Prevention, we've talked about this before in the podcast. Prevention is always best.
Yes.
But we realize there's going to be a lot of people joining us with middle school, high school age kids who are listening going, oh man, I've really entitled my kid. I didn't realize it.
Right.
How would you suggest, what kind of conversation do you have with your kids? Where do you start? And
Well, I think the first thing that I would do if I were that parent is I'd probably look back on the ways that I led them into an entitlement mindset, because I probably made some decisions or allowed them to do some things, and I would ask them for forgiveness for those things, and just tell them, hey, I realize these decisions that I made in leading you were wrong. Will you forgive me? And here's a direction I think we should go to improve things. And these are the things we're going to start doing, and we're going to stop doing these things. I think that's the first thing I would do.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really good. Being willing to ask them to forgive you. And they may not truly understand. If they're old enough, they'll probably understand. But and hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll understand, because you can explain really what happened and how you got to this place. And then helping to turn the corner. How do we help them to turn the corner and be willing to see that, maybe we need to make a change. And it needs to come from us. It needs to come from us as mom and dad. They need to see our hearts, our willingness to be humble and say, we made a mistake, and we want to make a change. And then we need to be examples and just ask, go to the Lord, go on our knees and ask the Lord for wisdom.
Yes.
What can we do differently so that we can be examples of the change we want to see in our families?
Well, I'm also thinking that if you have a vision for the future and you have a vision for your family and you constantly share that on a consistent basis, you're going to be less likely to go down that road. So I know we can put a link in the show notes. We did a podcast on visioning, and we'll put a link there in the show notes for you to go to. But I would encourage you, if you feel like you don't have a vision for your family, you don't talk about it with your family, I would encourage you to listen to that podcast and really start there. Because if you have a vision for your family and if it's consistently delivered, I believe a lot of these ways to combat entitlement, you won't have to address as hard, as deep. And you won't get to that point where you're dealing with these issues as they're older.
Yeah. And then giving the kids the why, asking
that's
for
critical.
forgiveness. But
Yeah.
this is why the path that we're on is not healthy and not good and really not good for your future.
Right.
And it's going to be hard for the kids because very often that means taking away things that they're used to.
Yep.
Some comforts, some toys, whatever, some choices.
And it might be some things parents have to give up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
Amen.
Yeah. But giving them a why, helping them. And most kids aren't going to go, oh, blessed Father, that is so wise. Thank you for caring about my future so much to take away everything that I love to do in my free time. But that's
I'm feeling a little uncomfortable just as you say it.
Yeah.
But we need to remain steadfast, going on the knees, trusting that the Lord has got us and will support us, and we can cast all this on Him. And I also think the like-minded friends who have the same goals and values. And I know that over the years, you guys have been friends that we can go to and, hey, we're doing this. And you're like, yes, keep at it. It's so worth it. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
And we've done the same back to you. Hey.
Yeah, and for our kids to see
Absolutely.
they're not the only ones.
Yes.
So I want to get to a couple more of these ways to combat entitlement.
Are we still in attitude of gratitude?
We're gonna come back to that.
Okay, good.
Because Kurt mentioned it. I want to get to that, but I'm going to close with that one.
Okay.
The one I'm going to do before that, and then we'll get to gratitude, is just instilling a level of responsibility and accountability on them. So, what's a way to do that? What's one way to do that?
Yes, chores.
The beautiful word of chores.
Chores. Maybe is there a song about chores?
Oh boy.
Let's do the
here we
key
go.
of.
I don't.
F.
We'll figure something out.
I don't even know what that means. Key of F. I know what it means, but
At least you didn't say key of J or something like that.
Well, I know it goes till G or something like that, right? It ends at G, isn't it? A through G?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yeah, that's
Good
what
job.
I thought. So I felt pretty good about that. I mean,
Good job.
Musicians
I played-
out there dying.
I played trombone
Yes.
in high school. Come
Yeah.
on.
Incredible
You got
musician.
this.
But
I
you're
got
good,
this.
really good at it too.
Maybe one podcast, I'll start off with the trombone national
Yeah.
anthem.
No, you won't.
I could.
Mm-hmm.
You could.
I could. If we lead this podcast, I could throw that in there.
Go for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
It'll be a
tell me just
solo podcast.
so we're going to put a link in the notes to a Chores podcast. That's going to be coming out soon. And we'll put the link in there once it
we
comes
record
out.
it.
Yeah, once it comes out. But it's going to come soon. But you're going to want to listen to that one. So we're not going to spend a ton of time here. But just give me for just your overall thoughts on chores, and then we're going to go deep in that podcast on chores, which I would encourage all of you to listen to that. It's going to be a really good one. We'll have Kurt and Jill on that one too. They're going to give some great insight on that. But Jill, Kurt, what are your thoughts when you
my
think of
very
chores?
first thought is as soon as and as little as they can be helping you do things. They're so excited about doing things to help.
Give me a
when they're
rough
little.
age there. I mean, like literally, like
Even like
Two?
a 2-year-old.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like standing on a stool while you're working in the kitchen.
just no sharp knives, probably.
No, maybe not the knives,
Yeah.
but just
Definitely.
making them think they're helping, even if they're not. They're still standing there beside you while you're working.
Right.
Right.
That's good.
Folding socks, they probably can't. I mean, at 2, they're not going to be able to really fold the socks. but they can do it with you. They
Right.
can do it
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
So it's like helping them to see that they're capable, that they're needed. And
Yeah.
this part of our family identity was that we work together and we need each other.
Yeah.
And how important is that for our kids to know they're needed and they're known and they're important? And I think, honestly, beginning with them helping us and then them stepping and doing it themselves, and then eventually them doing some of these things better than we ever did
Right.
Yeah.
is huge.
A sock folding family stays
Sock
together.
folding.
A sock folding family stays together. That's what I'm
If you
taking
can
away
find
from
the
this.
match.
If you can find the match.
Yeah,
Assign
sock
someone
sorting.
just for the
Exactly. Sock
matches.
sorting is where they start, right?
Yeah.
They may not be able to fold it, but they can at least find the ones that look alike.
But now,
The
Right.
matching
but
game,
now,
built-in matching game.
but now it's in not to match your socks.
Oh, true. They don't need
So
to be matched.
non-matching socks is the thing.
Do you still
Okay.
match your
So
socks?
never mind that.
That's a personal question, but I will answer that. I do.
Good.
How about you?
I do too.
Yeah.
Bothers me when they're not matched.
But I'm into it now. I've got some kids even that show up in different socks and they like go together and that's how they consistently wear them. And I'm like, okay, that's how it rolls. I'm good with that. It makes sorting easy. You just kind of throw together whatever and you kind of go. So any thoughts from you on chores before we hit the gratitude?
No,
which I want to do?
We're going to dive deep into
Yeah, we
chores.
will. That's
Yeah.
good.
So let's talk about that. Julie, you're going to say something there on the attitude of gratitude. Kurt brought it up a few minutes ago. We're going to, this is going to be our last way to combat entitlement. And then we're going to do a close.
Yeah. Well, that attitude of gratitude, again, it's got to be modeled by us, which can be really hard, but it's even thanking them. You know, again, we'll get into chores. And while, yes, we expect them to do their chores, it's still just thanking them. I'm expected to do some things around the house, and I don't expect Rich to always say, wow, Julie, thank you for cooking me dinner every time. But, you know, when he does, I'm like,
Feels good.
Yeah, feels good. So just that attitude of gratitude.
Am I 50-50 on that? Where am I at on that?
You do a great job.
Do I do a good job?
I feel very
Okay.
appreciated.
I was just
and
wondering
and
where I
affirmed by
stood.
you.
Okay.
I remember a story that I've never done this with the kids, but I thought it was a creative story. There was a mom who was just a little frustrated with her kids. She felt like they were not thankful for all that they had. So as a assignment, it was probably a consequence. She gave them a notebook and said, I want you to write down everything you're thankful for. And whatever you don't write down, I'm taking away.
Whoa.
So it took hours. She probably gave them a week. I don't know, but it took a long time. They wrote down everything that they were thankful for. She got the list and they ended up losing toilet paper and toothpaste. Not really, I'm sure. But you get the idea that you don't really think about being thankful for toilet paper until it's threatened to be taken away. But I think that was it just prompted me to think, wow, I mean, thankful for the little things. I mean, the Lord tells us give thanks in all circumstances. I still remember the story, for those who know the story of Corrie ten Boom. And she and her sister were in a horrible Nazi concentration camp. And her sister, I think Betsy was her name, was thanking God for the fleas that infested their beds. And Corrie said, Betsy, I'm sure God doesn't mean fleas too. Like, I know he says give thanks for all things, but I'm sure he did not mean fleas. Come to find out later, the reason they were able to hold Bible studies in their sleeping quarters that they had was because the guards would not come in there because the fleas were so bad.
Mm.
That was just so powerful. We really don't even know the hand of God and all that he gives and supplies for us, even when it's something that we think is annoying.
That's so true. It could be as simple too as just every day when you journal or in the practice of your kids journaling, having them write down 2 or 3 things every day that they're grateful for, just to get them in the habit, a rhythm of thinking of those things on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Kurt and Jill, how about, a thought on gratitude and some things that maybe you saw that you did either intentionally or unintentionally that had some really great outcomes for y'all?
I think we modeled it in prayer, but also in our lives, modeled being thankful and being grateful for what the Lord had given us. I'd say we probably did a better job of it when they got a little older because we'd probably talk about it more.
Like when they were teens?
Yeah, when they were teens.
Okay.
Yeah. But even starting when they're younger, and like you said, Julie, thanking them for when they do something, being thankful to the Lord for just simple things, just modeling that to them so that they see, boy, Mom and Dad are grateful for everything that we have, even when it's hard. even when it's hard, you thank the Lord for the hard things.
I think what you said there was critical. Just telling them thank you for basic things that they're doing, and it becomes really easy not to overlook some basic things. And if you can get in the habit of giving thanks for some of those things and just speaking life into a couple of simple things,
right,
it can do wonders to the relationship and to them,
right,
in what they look for
right.
in gratitude in others.
Yeah.
Jill, any
It's
thoughts on that?
easy to take each other for granted. I think that's what we tend to do a lot in a family. I feel like the whole responsibility thing is just really, really big. Teaching our kids to be responsible for the sake of others as well. It's that others focused, being as others. The others focus is really hard. It takes a long time to really learn that. I remember one of our kids always wanted to be first in line, the first to pick the biggest cookie, the first to decide or give an opinion of where we were going to go or what we were going to do and all of that.
That's a leader right there.
It is a leader.
It's a true leader.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we had some conversations with her about the first will be last and the last will be first.
Good.
Why did Jesus say that? And interestingly enough, she now consistently prefers to be last. As an adult, we see her constantly preferring to
Serving
be
others
last.
first.
Putting others first.
Yeah. It didn't start that way. And it wasn't natural for her.
But you
in
notice
seeing
it now, don't you?
We do.
Oh, yeah.
And in noticing that too, it's because of the Lord in her. It's not because all of a sudden she's figured,
Right.
all of a sudden somewhere she just figured out this would be the best way to do it. It was because of the Holy Spirit working in her and humbling her a bit and helping her understand, the way the Lord sees other people is
So she's
really
in her
important.
she's in her 20s now.
She's actually early 30s.
Early 30s. So have you spoken into that? Have you've seen it? Have you had a date with her or been out with her and said, "Hey, I've noticed this in you."
That.
That might be something.
That would be good.
Because I think that would be powerful, just to say, "Hey, this is the journey we've seen you on, and this is what we see you doing now,
And
but
we're
you
proud
weren't,
of you.
and we're proud of you."
I mean,
Absolutely.
she remember it right away.
Oh,
she knows that
absolutely.
it was a big thing we worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Have you-
That's really cool.
So you guys have 4 children. I don't know if you've noticed this. It's something Rich and I have noticed. So we have 7. 3 of them are adults.
I've noticed we have 7.
Oh, good. Where did all these kids come
I
from?
know. I kind of have noticed we have 7 kids. Yeah.
But what I noticed is the oldest few, anytime it was time to go out of the house or do anything, I really needed their help. I need you, can you help me help the 3-year-old get his shoes on, make sure, it was when it's time to go, there's a lot to do. You grab the diaper bag, you do this. And so they knew, at 12 o'clock, we're going to go somewhere and I'm going to need you to help me. And so they knew it wasn't just themselves they had to be responsible for. Mom and Dad are going to place some tasks that I have to do to help be responsible for some of the younger siblings who are getting out of the house. Where now we have 1 at college and 3 still living at home. And they're all, the youngest is 12. So when it's time to go, all they have to do is worry about themselves.
Yeah.
And so the others' focus hasn't been naturally just through family dynamics trained into them. And that's something that we realized. So we started to see these little attitudes of entitlement just kind of popping up randomly. We're like, we didn't have this problem with the older kids. What's going on? But we realized we had to come up with new ways to try to battle this entitlement that kept popping.
I think that's some of it, but I also think too, as you have more influence, sometimes that pulls you to entitlement.
That is true. We're in a different place
Financially,
in life.
that has a big impact.
It does.
On things. Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys saw that with your 4 or...
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it helped that they all, the girls especially, took babysitting jobs and learned to take care of younger ones, younger than them and younger than their siblings, and how that helped them to recognize that there's a lot of things that have to be done, and I'm going to have to help this younger child with whatever it might be. But it's different in your family versus somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah.
So if
Boy,
we would
how
have
do you
kept,
teach
if we would have
that?
kept
Yeah.
having kids, that would have been a problem,
I
right?
almost brought that up, but I wasn't going to do it. But now that
I
you
did. I opened
yeah.
up the bag.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's time. It's just grandkids.
We're
Come on,
gonna,
get
part of
more
being
grandkids.
responsible, Jill, is winding the podcast down. And I'm going to do that right now
Go.
because I could be getting myself in some serious trouble if I keep going here. Julie was looking at me. Yeah. So I'm gonna say a couple additional thoughts to close out. Having nice things is not bad. It's being on guard that they don't become our idols.
Yes.
Mhm.
That, I think, is a critical component of this. And also, entitlement can take root if we equate what we own or have access to things and they become our identity or a comfort
Mhm.
to us.
It's true.
So what we don't want you to take away is that having nice things are bad and wanting things are bad. That is not what we want to get across. It's just when that becomes your identity, then that can lead to a really bad cycle of behavior. Well, it's been great having Kurt and Jill with us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Oh,
guys.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Yeah.
It's
Being
fun.
here.
We enjoyed this, and thanks everyone for listening to the Life Parenting Podcast. We hope you have been strengthened in your role as a parent.
Yep. You can go to growingfamilies.life. You can get more info and resources there. There's tons of videos for you to check out, links to sign up for online parenting classes, and you can connect with a contact mom with questions if you have questions.
Yeah, and you can connect with us on social media, Growing Families Life on Facebook and Instagram. And if you are enjoying these podcasts, either on a listening platform or on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe.
And forward it to a friend.
Yes.
Forward it to a friend.
Yeah. And leave us a good review if you are enjoying it. It helps other people find this resource.
Yep. And if there's some topics that you're thinking, man, I'd really like for them to cover them, just shoot them to podcast@growingfamilies.life. And we will examine those and add them to the list if we think that they would be great topics for the masses to listen to. So great having you here and look forward to connecting with you at a future episode.
Test 1, 2. It's fine in mine.
Hello? Testing.
Oh,
1, 2.
say, can you see by the dawn's early light? That wasn't too bad.
No, it's beautiful.
For no warm up.
Hmm.
Totally making the blooper reel, guys.
Warm up for me quick?
Yeah.
Because I want to hear it again.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
This
little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine. Ooh, let it shine. Let it shine.
Oh, I don't know.
Let it shine.
Let it shine. Let it shine.
Hide it under a bush?
No.
I'm gonna let it shine.
That's right.
Hide it under a bush.
No.
I'm gonna let it shine. Well, it is great to be back with y'all.
It is. Welcome to the Life Parenting
Podcast.
20 minutes of bloopers.